And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hello everybody, I'm Tom Vasel, and today we're taking a look at Margraves of Valeria. What does that mean? Well, there's a lot of Valeria games that are out there from the same company here, Daily Magic Games. The Valeria games tend to blend together in their naming. If you say, which one do you like better, Kingdoms of Valeria or something else of Valeria? I'm like, oh, I don't remember which one's which. But this one, we just call Margraves. This one I'll remember, because we call Margraves, and Valeria is like a subtitle to it. But this is a game where you have a Margrave, a leader, who's going to go around the board, and you're trying to accomplish points by kind of a formulaic thing. You know what? I'm just going to show you. Let's first talk about victory points here. It's going to be done on these influence tracks. There are 4 influence tracks here, and as the game goes by, players are going to be moving their pieces down these influence tracks. And you'll notice there are victory points up here above each section. So if you are in that section at the end of the game, then each card that you have that has a symbol that matches that section are going to be worth victory points, as well as areas on the board. If you manage to build in those areas, you'll also get victory points, again, for as far as you move on this board. There's some points for leftover resources, but that's the main way to get points in this game. At the beginning of the game, players are going to be drawing 4 of these starting resource cards and drafting them to pick your starting resources. So let's say I pick these. I'll start with 2 military strength, 2 resources of my choice amongst those 3, some gold, and starting 1 space on those tracks. And you'll be putting the resources on these storage spots. You only have so many storage spots to put resources and knights. You have these 4. Once you build these, you'll open up more spots, and above your board you'll keep track of your military strength, and in your keep over here you'll keep all of your gold. Each player is also going to have 4 starting citizen cards, and what you're going to do on your turn is you're going to be playing one of these cards. When you play a card, you are either going to do the actions in the top left, whatever the icons show, you'll do that action. So this one, for example, lets me get 2 gold. I get to move my Margrave, and I get to deploy a knight. This one, the resource, move my Margrave, and deploy a knight. This one, move my Margrave, deploy 2 knights. You can, instead of that, do whatever it says here on the bottom. So it's just simply going to say that here I get 5 coins. I can pay a coin for a resource, and everyone gets 1 resource for each keep that they have on the board. So those are 2 of the main ways to play the cards. You can also discard a card face down and do one of the 2 actions here. You can build onto the board, or you can do the recall action. When you take the recall action, that's how you get your cards back. And in fact, if you use all your cards, you only have 1 card left, you have to use it to recall. That's going to give you all the cards back into your hand, and it's going to let you take a look up here. You can pick one of these cards that's in the citizen row up here, get rid of that card out of the game, and then you can buy a card. So I can buy this one for 3 gold and add that to my hand, and then replace the ones that are there. The cards there are going to have some neat things in them, and you're buying cards for a couple reasons. To get new and different actions that you can use, but also their icons, which will hopefully be worth points at the end of the game based on where you are on these guild tracks. When you move your Margrave around, you're going to follow the paths. There's white paths here, and you'll be going to different locations that are connected to where you're at. And then you can take the location of that path, which oftentimes is getting a resource. So you see here, you can take a stone down here. You can take wood over here. You can take the magic, and up here you can spend 3 of those other resources to get the special gem resource. So there's different things that you can do at the different spots. One of the spots here is moving your boat. You can spend resources here to move their boat around and get money, and you'll notice these stars here which let you move up on the different guild tracks. Deploying a knight allows you to take a knight from your board and put it where you are, or to move a knight from where you are to an adjacent place. And knights are going to be used to help fight different bad guys. You're going to occasionally have to fight bad guys, or you get to fight them using the special abilities on many of the cards. So for example, this card here says you may slay a monster. And there are different monsters in different locations around the board. When you are fighting these monsters, you can fight them from any spot that's connected to that monster. There are different monsters in the decks. There's a boss monster who will eventually show up as the game goes by. Slaying these monsters have different rewards, but they also have a different, they'll need a certain amount of magic sometimes, or strength. When you spend strength, you'll spend strength off your board, or you can use knights from your board or from the location that you are in to help fight these monsters to get to the strength amount you need. As knights are killed, I mean when you use them in battle, you're going to place them here in these spots. And when you fill a complete row or a complete column, or both, you're going to get the rewards of those rows and columns. And then eventually the knights return here and you can do it again. So you can see you can get money, resources, military strength, move on the guild, get a knight. And so placing them here can give you a reward for using those knights. You can also use a card instead of its power to build something. You can see that building something is going to cost 1 of every resource, including the hard-to-get gems. And it's going to let you move up 3 on one of the guild tracks, and you're going to be able to place that building where your Margrave is. And each area you can have one of your buildings in it, and that can score you points at the end of the game. And you also get a reward for building it in the different areas on the board. So and it also gives you a spot, an extra spot to put a resource on your player board. As I said, much of the game is about moving your tokens along these paths because it's worth points at the end of the game. But you're also going to get benefits from crossing different areas, and you can take these tiles. As you cross each of these bridges with these people, you're going to get these tiles from 1. Here you can take a 1 or 2, or from the 2 section. Tiles will give you uses that you can do. You can turn them in to get special abilities. Some of them are going to give you banners at the end of the game. You'll get extra points for the number of different banners you have squared. So moving along these tracks is really the main focus of the game, as it's how you score majority of your points, but also gives you bonuses and benefits. The game ends in either you're going to run out of privilege tiles to put out, the citizen deck runs out, which by the way is different size based on the number of players, or if someone has put out all 4 of their buildings. And at that point, you're going to add up the scores as I told you previously, and whoever has the most points is the winner. As always, the artwork in this game is phenomenal. By the way, I think it's really cool that when you put the cards down here, they fit on the board. This board, I mean, just you look at these, you know, they're both scary and neat looking at the things. The pieces themselves, I love how these things are built. They just keeps your gold. So, you know, between the components and everything, and I have to say, that one thing that I really enjoy about this game is the box itself. So the box itself comes and shows you in the box how all the pieces fit in. That's a really nice thing. It's just something that I really appreciate about this game. The symbology is not difficult in this game. The rule book is clear. Overall, there's a lot of pieces, a lot going on, but it is a Class A production. Very impressive. I like how each of the knights, of course, his artwork is good, although it almost looks like it could fit in the universe of the West Kingdom with some of this artwork and stuff, but it's really well done. Now I have found that with the Valeria games, I often can pick, you know, hey, this is what this game's from. One Valeria game clearly inspired by Lords of Waterdeep. One clearly inspired by Machikoro. They just feel that way. So you're like, well, Tom, what's Margraves feel like? Well, it feels like it was based on the other Valeria games in a sense. It takes mechanisms from there where you have the symbols and the cards and you got these guilds and these symbols matter and you're collecting cards to the point where it felt it's really hard for me, in a sense, to get too involved in the theme of this. Great artwork, great production, but I never necessarily felt like I was going around and fighting monsters and such. It's very mechanical. You know, I go to the ship, spend a lot of resources, and spin the ship around and around to get points, or I go over here to do this, and I build this, but it never felt like the theme was really strong. It felt like a math spreadsheet. I want to move this guild marker, which gives me 1 more point for each of these symbols I have, and I have 4 of those symbols in the deck. There's a few things about the game I was not keen on. Didn't like the tomb mechanisms in the game because it felt like this giant game of chicken, in the sense of I put some knights in there, but I got to be careful not to put too many knights in there, because then you can put knights in there and therefore you can get all these bonuses, so then we're both waiting and finally, like, I got to kill a monster. I felt like that part just didn't gel for me. This whole one person could set someone else up to get some bonuses. Not a really big deal, but I wasn't so keen on that. And also, the game definitely has that if the person before you is doing something similar to you, they can go and fight the monster that you were about to fight and had all the stuff for, and use the knights that you were about to use. There's definitely player interaction in that regard, because the knights on the board work for no man. They work for every man, I guess, and so someone else can use those. Those are minor things, but that and the clinical feeling of this brought this down. I still like the game. I still think it's interesting, but that kept me from really thinking it was fantastic. Like I said, absolute stunning production, absolute cool looking, and there's a lot of things I do like. I like the playing of cards. I like the fact that when you play a card, there are 4 things you can use it for. Top, bottom, flip it over to get your cards back. Well, that's not really an interesting use, or build something. But mostly it's top or bottom. That's what's happening most of the time. And I'm like, well, I like these icons on the top. I like these on the bottom. I'm also thinking about the icon over here because that's a scoring thing. That's interesting, and that's where the whole game's based. And turns aren't that long. I play my turn, do this. Not only that, there's some cards that say other players get to do things. That's interesting. You played a card, it's really good for you, but a little good for me. I'm happy with that. And I like the way endgame scoring works out. I like the bonus tiles. I love the starting resource tiles. So there's a lot of good, few things not so keen on, but it comes together in a game that I think is one of the better games in the Valeria series. Certainly is one of the bigger ones for sure. So definitely check this one out. It's interesting. There's a lot going on in it. And at the end of the day, I thought it was fun. That's Margraves of Valeria. I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you next time. Dice Tower Judgment approved.